Hi everyone, welcome to my video. So I am back with another woman, and today, as you can see in the title, I'm going to be talking about the Jolly Black Widow, or Nanny Doss. So let's get started. Okay guys, so to start, she had went on a killing spree in 1920 and it ended in 1954. Her real name was Nancy Hazel. She was born on November 4th, 1905 in Alabama. Like the other ones, she also had a rough childhood growing up. Her dad was abusive and didn't really care about their education. If he needed to, he would take his kids out of school to help him with their farm. So when Nancy dropped out of 6th grade, he didn't really care. When she was 7, she was on a train that suddenly stopped and she fell forward and hit her head, which caused her to suffer from migraines, headaches, blackouts, and depression. For her whole life, her father didn't let her or her sisters have any interactions with the opposite sex, so with boys. And it wasn't until she got her first job in 1921 where she finally got to have any type of social interaction with men. While she was working, she met a man named Charlie Braggs, and after 5 months of dating, they got married. She moved in with Charlie and his mother, which he would take care of. And Nancy moved from one toxic environment to another. She went from living with her abusive dad to living with an abusive husband and a controlling and very manipulative mother-in-law. That's why you gotta choose your husbands and wives right, because not only do you marry them, you marry their family too. Even though honestly, like, family approval is important and all, but if you really love the person, you know, then it doesn't really matter. It sucks that you have to deal with sucky family members, but I mean, if you really love the person, you know, the person would try to make you as comfortable as they can, and they wouldn't let their family disrespect you. That's how it should be, you know? Anyway, they had their first kid in 1923 and then 3 more in the 3 upcoming years. Having to put up with her mother-in-law taking care of her kids and having to deal with her abusive, cheating, drunk husband, she also started drinking and she started going to bars. In 1927, she had her 4th child, and her 2 middle children suddenly died out of nowhere from food poisoning. Her husband suspected that she was the one who killed them, so he ran away with his oldest daughter and left the newborn behind. A little bit after he took off, his mother ended up dying as well. And he still stayed in the house for about a year until Charlie came back with his daughter and his new girlfriend. Then they divorced and she moved in with her mother with her 2 daughters. Then she met her second husband, Robert Harrelson. Nanny was 24 and Robert was 23. And like her other husband, he was also a drunk. And he wasn't abusive, but he was in debt. And he would also get into fights at the bar. In 1943, Nanny's oldest daughter, Melvina, had her first baby, a little boy. And then she had a daughter in 1945. The little girl died right after Melvina gave birth to her for unexplained reasons. Melvina was in and out of consciousness during her labor, but she claims that she saw her mother put a hat pin into the baby's skull, but there was no evidence to back up her claims. On July 7th, 1945, Nanny was taking care of her grandson, and that night he died from asphyxiation from unknown causes. After a few months, Nanny got $500 from an insurance plan that she put on the little boy. On September 15th, her husband came home drunk and raped her. So she did what any woman should do. Just kidding. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. But she put rat poison in his whiskey and watched him die a painful death. She met another man, Arlie Lanning. They got married 2 days later, and although he wasn't abusive either, he was a cheater and a drunk. But this time, Nanny was the one who would leave the house, sometimes for months at a time. I don't know what she was doing, but she wasn't at home. Anyway, in 1950, Arlie got sick and died. The doctors believed that it was from a heart attack. After getting the flu that was going around at the time, he had all the symptoms to show for it. He had a fever, vomiting, and stomach pains. And since he was an alcoholic, the doctors just assumed that his body couldn't take the flu, and that's why they didn't perform an autopsy. He left his house to his sister, but 2 months after he died, the house burnt down. So Nanny moved in with her mother-in-law, and shortly after that, her mother-in-law died too. Once Nanny got the insurance money for the house, she left. She went to go see her sister that was dying of cancer. Nanny was kind of like, you know, like whatever you touch turns into gold, but whatever she touched died. After that happened, she went on to look for her fourth husband. That's crazy. Some people can't even find one. So she went and joined a singles club. It was called the Diamond Circle Club. She met Richard Morton. In October 1952, they got married and moved to Kansas. This husband wasn't an alcoholic, but he was a cheater, and Nanny found out that he was cheating on her with his old girlfriend. Like, why? Why do you ever have, like, you don't ever. Anyway, so she figured she would take care of him the way she knows how to take care of men and the people around her. Kind of looks like I have a black eye. She had her eyes on another man anyway. His name was Samuel Doss. But before she could take care of her cheating husband, her dad died, and her mother came to visit because of that. After a few days of her mother being over, she started to complain about really bad stomach cramps, and then she died. 3 months later, Richard went down the same path and died too. After Richard died, Nanny moved to Oklahoma and married Samuel Doss. He was a Nazarene minister who was dealing with the death of his wife and 9 of his kids. This time, Nanny did not kill them. They actually died in a tornado in Arkansas. And unlike the other husbands, he was a good church-going man. His flaws though, he was cheap and he was boring. He wouldn't allow Nanny to read her little love novels that she absolutely loved. He wouldn't let her watch any love TV. He would keep a tight rope on his money, and they also had a 9:30 bedtime every single night. And since he was a cheap man, he wouldn't give much of it to Nanny, and of course that did not sit well with her. So she left to Alabama and only agreed to go back to Oklahoma if he would add her to his checking accounts. And he did. So when she came back, Nanny convinced him to take out 2 insurance policies and to write her down as the only beneficiary. Right after he finished signing and the ink dried, Samuel got sick. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he was well enough to come back home. So he did. On his first night home, Nanny gave him a home-cooked meal, and guess what? Hours later, he died. The doctors were alarmed with his sudden death, so they ordered an autopsy. The autopsy showed that his organs were full of arsenic. The police took Nanny in for questioning, and she confessed to killing 4 of her husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and Arlie's mother, even though it is believed that she actually killed up to 11 people. On May 17, 1955, Nanny, who was then 50 years old already, got sentenced to life. In 1963, after being locked up for about 8 years, she died from leukemia in the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. But alright guys, that's all I have for today. This is the final look. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye guys!